Hi, everybody. Welcome to Andrew Pindar, Greg Phillips, Baton Rouge, John Emmett, Clayton Embley, and lots of others. John Lamberts Van Buren, Gordon Smith in Denmark, all over the world signing on. Welcome to all of you. Delighted to have you with us for this show number 598. And there, as you probably saw in the show notes, there's some breaking news out of Auckland from the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron about their finances. We'll cover that in the A block. Welcome.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. Welcome again to show 598. This is Tuesday, the 7th of March, 2023. Two more shows. A week from today will be our 600th show, assuming God, the internet, and everyone else willing. We'll do our, 599 this Friday. Got special guests this Friday. We'll tell you about that. Julia is not here. We're, of course, in the Beach Street Yacht Club Studio B, as usual. Julia is still upstairs. She tested positive again yesterday. She's Mr. Andrew McIrvin assures me that, after 2 weeks, you're probably not transmissible, communicative, even if you've had it, and she clearly has. But she's feeling much better. She's doing much better. And as so is my mother, my beloved mother in Michigan. She had her run of Paxlovid, as did Julia, and they're both doing just fine. Thank you very much for your notes and inquiries and so on about them. We'll get right into the pre-start here. And this same cool club in New Zealand, the Kohimarama Yacht Club, I hope I'm pronouncing that pretty close. This youth yacht club dedicated to introducing young people to sailing and training them to love and excel at our beloved sport. I just think that is a cool club, and all the volunteers that make that happen, bravo Zula to you. Some news since our show on Friday. I don't know if you saw this, among my favorite chocolates, but certainly one of mine, Toblerone, the formerly Swiss chocolate, established in Switzerland 1908, right? Well, apparently the Swiss government is saying, you can't do that anymore because you're making it in Slovakia, not just here in Switzerland. Toblerone chocolate bars are famous for their triangular peaks, as you I'm sure all know, but they will soon be losing their most famous one, the image of the Matterhorn prominently displayed on their packaging. Toblerone was created in the Swiss city of Bern, in 1908 by Theodor Tobler, with his distinctive shape reportedly inspired by his mountainous homeland and the Matterhorn in particular. Now, why is that relevant to sailing? Well, I'm not sure it is. But Mondelez International, the U.S. company that owns Toblerone, is shifting part of its production to Slovakia. Bloody hell. Starting in July in a move announced last year aimed at, guess what, cutting costs. That appears to violate Switzerland's Swissness Act, which since 2017 has required products to meet certain criteria in order to use Swiss symbols like the Swiss cross or call themselves Swiss made. Now, we heard from our fozy, Andrew Pindar, who's in Switzerland with some of his brood, some of his colleagues. As you will remember, well, a trip to Switzerland isn't just about snow, mountains, and Toblerone. He sent us along some nice photos to get us in the mood. I love this country. I love their America's Cup team. We're going to talk about it in the B block. Beautiful scenes, courtesy of Andrew of Switzerland. He's got a ski chalet there. Not a lot of snow, apparently, unlike what's going on here in California. And you gotta love the pissoir photo that he sent. Those photos, courtesy of Andrew Pindar, to get us in the Swiss mood of things here for our show number 598. Now, another thing that's hit the news here big time in the States, and I'm sure elsewhere, is where did COVID originate? Did it originate in the animals and in the so-called wet market in Wuhan, or did it originate out of that laboratory? And I'm not saying they released it intentionally, but it's becoming clearer and clearer It came out of that lab. It was a lab leak, or some of the scientists got it and then went out and then started infecting other people. They went to the hospital. People are saying, whoa, this is not correct. This is not bad. But Clark Chapin, our super Fozy, is telling us this is how he hears. This is what really happened in Wuhan. So it did involve, after all, it did involve an animal. Clark Chapin is saying, thanks, Clark, for that. This is turning out to be, I think, the biggest scandal in at least our lifetime, the modern history of the world. It's unbelievable how many people have died, the trillions of dollars, all this mask. We won't even go into the masking, which Andrew McUrban tells us again and again just makes no difference. Yes, wash your hands. Yes, be careful with how close and you get with other people, but we don't need to go into all that. But what is, a lot of you are tennis buffs, tennis fans, and none of us was amused to see that he was not led into Miami, and now tennis and Djokovic are pushing against the U.S. COVID vaccine rule, which is not allowing him into Indian Wells. Djokovic, the world number one, who is unvaccinated against COVID-19, has lobbied the Biden administration for an exemption so he can play at Indian Wells and the Miami Open. Well, I think the Miami Open is gone. So far, he has come up short. And a lot of people are saying this is just ridiculous. This gal, Gigi Granville, who I don't know, an immunologist and senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, is a huge proponent of the vaccine for the health of those who are vaccinated and everyone around them. But she acknowledged the vaccination from 2 years ago would probably provide little protection today. And as we all know, it doesn't do much at all to protect you from giving it to other people. And she went on to say that it's unlikely that the rule like the one in place would compel more unvaccinated individuals to get vaccinated. So this is Crutonic. The U.S. Travel Association is pushing back, issued a statement following the news on the withdrawal of tennis champion Novak Djokovic from participating in upcoming U.S. tournaments in the Indian Wells tournament. America's outdated vaccine policy for international visitors is an unforced error that has contributed to an $80 billion, I don't know, it's hard to justify that number in my own mind, but some big number in loss in foreign traveler spending. Djokovic is merely one of millions deterred from visiting the U.S. due to well-intended, but yeah, they got to say that, but antiquated policy. It is well past time for the U.S. to join with its peers in Europe, Australia, and elsewhere and remove pandemic vaccine requirements for our inbound travelers. Could not agree more. And as you probably know, I've spoken at Indian Wells Tennis Garden. Why? Because it's owned by Larry Ellison. And Larry, we did some America's Cup stuff down there in the early days soon after he bought it, but he's turned it into a big deal, beautiful facility, the Indian Wells Tennis Gardens down in Southern California, out near Palm Springs in the desert. And apparently the world number one is not going to be allowed to play there at Larry Ellison's Indian Wells Tennis Garden. That is Crutonicism run amok here in the U.S. government. But if that was the biggest problem we had in the U.S. government, we'd all be happy. The market was down another 500 points today on fears of recession. So what saith all of you? Joe Holtzman, I totally agree. I assume he's agreeing with me on that issue. Lots of comments. I heard it was all Dr. Fauci's fault, Stingray is saying. Well, Fauci was obviously a central player and was lying out both sides of his mouth. My beloved mother has tested negative twice. She's back in action. She even did a load of wash. She's feeling so good. And I think Julia also is feeling much better, although maybe a bit of a Paxlovid rebound. Barron is where Einstein had a view of a church clock from his accounting office window. And so, yes, Barron has significance even to sailing and VMGs and such. Thank you, Stingray. You kind of rescued that segment. And João Alexander saying hi in regards, salute, salve from Portugal. And Fritz Mueller down in Miami. Julia is not yet back, Gordon Smith. And Alan Long is smoking a brisket in Lago Vista, Texas. Richard Rundle, welcome back. And on and on. And I'll see if there's any other comments. Ted Ryman's in Cape Town. Got some news from Cape Town today, too, apropos the Race, the ocean race. Jonathan Frank, we are still required to wear masks in the airports in Brazil. Well, nobody said that the policy was correct, but Indian Wells, it's really sad that they cannot do this, cannot have Djokovic, and I don't know if there's anybody else that's not, I don't know. Yeah, Clark Chapin, the accounting office, the patent office. Yeah, I think he was a patent official, wasn't he? Okay, so much for that. Now, today, you ask, what is today? Well, apropos of that, I think this day in history will kill two birds with one stone. In 1876, do you know what happened on this day, the 7th of March, 1876? Here is your first clue. Excuse my sniffly nose. I tested myself this morning just to be sure I hadn't got a repeat, and I tested negative, I'm pleased to say. But here's your clue. What happened today in 1876, just, 35 years after AC0? Anybody know? Clark Chapin got it right off the bat. Bell patented the telephone. That's correct, Clark. There is the patent that was awarded to the Scotsman. I didn't realize he was a Scot. He was came over fairly early on in life from Scotland and then emigrated to the U.S. He lived from 1847 to 1922. Was born in 47, as we said. He was educated in what is now the UK and then eventually moved to North America in his early 20s. But even from an early age, Bell was interested and curious about the world around him. By the age of 12, he had invented a dehusking machine that his friend's family used at their flour mill for many years. I did not know that. And today is actually not only this day in history, but it is Alexander Graham Bell Day, I guess celebrated in many countries, not just here in the U.S., because it is the anniversary of the day in 1876 when the patent was granted for Bell's machine that would eventually become the telephone, and that, frankly, is the forerunner to everything we're doing here, the transmission of audio instead of by telegraph and yada, yada. So I thought, we should recognize that. Although he was not the only person to work on such an invention, Bell was the first one to get the patent for this type of machine. And today, therefore, is Alexander Graham Bell Day, Tuesday, March 7, 2023. And he also, of course, started what is still around today as AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraph Company. And I don't know if he made a lot of money or not, and I don't know if he was a sailor, but we are all benefiting from his invention. What are we doing correct or Crutonic this early in the show? Not really. We are going to do it, though. Gordon Smith got it, invention of the most everybody got it. First party line, Jonathan Frank. He saw those two ladies with their tin cans. Bell invented the hydrofoil. Oh, you all are clever. When did he invent the busy signal? Clark Chapin's asking. Morris Stevens up in Nova Scotia is remarking that the Bell family spent their summers in Badek. I think that's how you pronounce that. Badek, Nova Scotia. Steve Gruber, clever comment. He really didn't invent it by himself. He just got the patent in first. Julie Aarons is absolutely right. He also had his lawyers, because apparently in those days in the UK wouldn't patent anything that had been patented anywhere else first. So he had his lawyers patent it first in the UK and then immediately patent it in the US as well. Okay, so much for all of that. Let's get to the starting line and see what we have here. That's still that nice photo from the Dragon Gold Cup 2019 at the Royal Hollandia Yacht Club up there in northern on the IJsselmeer. I'm not going to say much about this, and I probably won't even mention the non-sailing CEO. But I have gotten a ton of feedback from last Tuesday's show and Friday's show, lots and lots and lots. Not a single person has taken issue with what I said, what I asserted, or the opinions that we put forward as well. I did have one longtime friend who was intimately involved for years in what was then USYRU and then U.S. Sailing, who pushed back and said it's not the non-sailing CEO's fault. I didn't say it was his fault. What my point was, is that now I've said it 3 times, the non-sailing CEO is not going to repair this because he doesn't know his ass from his ankle about sailing, about Olympic sailing, about our culture, about the people, and so on. Now, here is one post that came out in the Sailing Anarchy forums, and I'm a little hesitant to ever go quoting the Sailing Anarchy forums, but there again, almost everybody in that forum and just about anywhere else, notes, letters to Scuttlebutt, letters on other websites, echo the same thing. U.S. Sailing has had an inside coup pulled on it. It used to be a member organization. They changed the bylaws about 10 years ago. It is now run like a private company. Nominations to become an officer are picked by a tiny number of people. Campaigning is not allowed, and board members have to sign a confidentiality agreement that precludes them from discussing business with anyone other than the board. And that's true, and that alone is the essence of Crotonicism. I mean, that's just so ridiculous in a nonprofit, in a national governing body, in a member national authority that's running a sport. Can't talk about what we're doing to anybody else. This poster went on to say, and I don't know this person, but it echoes, I couldn't agree more. The president, vice president, and CEO have almost zero racing background. The CEO knows exactly nothing about Olympic sailing, and the president is a sailing school promoter. All things we told you in the last couple shows. The vice president, who's the new vice president that came from LA Yacht Club that nobody knows or nobody really knows her background, but she is more by way of DEI than she is by way of sailing, let alone racing expertise. I'm sure she's got a heart of gold, a very nice lady. Hopefully she'll help sort this out. But the vice president thinks she knows what she's talking about. No more need to be said. Those salaries would be okay if there was actually some leadership from either the paid hands or the elected officials. The sailors are screwed. And I said that on our show on Friday, what we have to do here in the States, those of you who are so inclined, and I urge you to find who they are, whether it's Daniela Moros here in San Francisco, who has probably the best chance of winning a medal, a gold medal, because she's been at the top of the kiteboarding world. There's, well, male or female, for years, and hopefully still will be come Marseille. But we in the U.S. have got to get behind our existing teams because this is a disaster for them. We need to surgically go after the people that have a chance to win a medal, back them with our own private funds, our foundations at our clubs and so on, because the sailors didn't. This is not the sailors' fault. This is the failure of leadership at the U.S. sailing level and beyond. I'll tell you one more thing. One hears this afternoon, this afternoon, there is a pivotal meeting of what's called the U.S. Sailing Foundation. The U.S. Sailing Foundation is the side saddle group. It used to be called USISA, United States International Sailing Association. It was a charitable tax-exempt organization in this country that started years ago, back in the 50s, to raise money for Olympians and other people going abroad to sail, U.S. International Sailing Association. And that is now the U.S. Sailing Foundation, and they are having a meeting this afternoon to decide because they're a separate group from board, a separate group from U.S. Sailing, to decide what they're going to do with their money, and they've raised a lot of money. Paul Cayard and others have raised a lot of money going forward. We'll see. It's going to be very interesting, and we shall see. Okay, enough of all that, and we'll just do here a bit of a Bravo Zulu. Cool news to an old friend. And if U.S. Sailing, this is a nice segue if I do say so myself, if U.S. Sailing wants to start way back on how the Brits developed such a strong program, they would not look any further than Jim Saltonstall.
After 10 years in the making, My Life in a Blue Suit. This book is about my lifelong holiday over a 75-year period between 1947 and the year 2022. It all began at the Royal Yorkshire Yacht Club, where I learnt how to sail and race over a 15-year period, before then joining the Royal Navy for a further 15 years on holiday cruising with the Grey Funnel Line and learning more about the sport. This then led me on to the Royal Yachting Association, which I joined in 1977 and became the lead coach of the National Race Training Scheme. I hope this book will be enjoyed by friends and sailors alike. This book includes a few hints on how to become a champion in the most challenging sport in the world.
And Fernhurst Books has also published some of John Emmett's books, I believe. I think that's fair to say. But I've known Jim Saltonstall since the 70s, late 70s. The guy was always the strongest, fittest, earliest to arrive, earliest to latest to leave at any venue, anywhere, coaching. And he was one of these guys that could, like Emmett, could not only coach, but he could get in the boat, hop in the boat, and go out and race anybody, and more often than not, beat them. This is the guy who's developed, a couple generations now, of top-notch British sailors. I haven't seen the book. I'm told it's superb. I commend it to U.S. Sailing, the first thing the non-sailing CEO and the president and the two people on the board who are the selection committee to select the new person ought to go read this book. Any of you who know Jim, I mean, he's just a terrific guy. Let's see what to say. Jonathan Frank, let's see, a life well lived. I think he's talking about Jim. Daniel Gruen, Jim Saltonstall was an absolute genius. He trained Ben Ainsley, Ian Percy, and Andrew Bart Simpson. Thank you, Daniel. And there is a mechanism to nominate. Yeah, Clark Chapin's talking about nominating an alternate slate, and the people are talking about following the money. Jeff C. Kitson. Jeff, I'm not sure we've seen your name on here before, but welcome. Thank you for that comment. Your show and your comments Friday were spot on. U.S. Sailing has to be forward-thinking. There are few, if any, things in life which would be better if we went back to how we did it 30 years ago. Okay, John, well, there are things that were done 30 years ago, even 40 years ago, that were way better than what's going on now. I want to know what Sangmeister has to say about all this. Steve Gruber is saying, well, John was on the board and left the board in disgust. Non-sailing CEO reminds me, did you order your UNT, University of North Texas coffee mug yet? Or better, no, Stingray, I haven't. You got to send that. You got to get one for me. Again, I repeat that U.S. Sailing has got to go back to being, and I don't think John Emmett will disagree with this either, it's got to go back to being a racing organization. There's nothing that U.S. Sailing does other than the rules, the rating rules, and the Olympics that a club and groups of clubs and sailing, community sailing can't do as well or better. In fact, in the UK, the RYA doesn't do rating rules. The RORC, the Royal Ocean Racing Club, it's a club, issues rating certificates, does the measurement, and does a better job of it. One hears. We used to do a pretty good job of it. I'd like to say when I was executive director, when John Bonds was executive director, the late great. But U.S. Sailing needs to refocus its energy and attention on the racing sailors. They're the ones who need the support. They're the ones who founded the organization, and that's gone off the tracks and tried to be what I used to call the AAA of sailing, what Don Riley calls the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. That's where you go get your driver's license and your license plates and that sort of stuff here in California and other states. Crutonicism amok. Let the clubs do it. Let the classes do it. Let the local sailing organizations like Sail Newport and other similar community sailing groups. This book, I commend it to everybody. I hear it's excellent. I have not read it myself. I will get a copy one way or another, and I want to thank Graham Sweeney, who sent that along, that video and a note to it, and that's why I had it on the show today. Again, thank you all for the Fozies who send links and ideas for this show. Well, this is a Fozie show through and through, and without you, we wouldn't have much of a show. And plus, it'd be a lot harder work for me. And I'm basically pretty lazy, as Julia knows. No. Okay. This was Graham's comment when he sent it, by the way. He was an inspiration, similar to what Daniel Gruen said. He was an inspiration to generations of UK dinghy sailors, a great coach, and his legacy lives on. America meaning U.S. Sailing, must have the same kind of talented guys or gals to drive American sailing forward. If no, why? If not, why? Graham Sweeney, thank you. And you're spot on. Absolutely spot on. Okay, enough of all that. Let's get into John Emmett's report. This is really a fun one, which I've enhanced a little bit, as you will see. John Emmett from the Coach's Corner, reporting from his family farm.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. You can probably tell I'm back at Imberhorn Farmhouse, and you're probably wondering about the background. I'm here at the granary looking at the progress, so quite an interesting background, and hopefully going to see a bit of progress over the next 12 months or so. So a few things today. The first of all is the John Emmett 3-minute rule. I know various people will talk about 5 minutes or 2 minutes, but rule of thumb for me, if something takes 3 minutes to do, probably best to do it immediately. Now, this often applies to tasks we don't want to do. We know they're only little tasks, but for goodness sake, we just get on with them, get them done, and it's done, and then we don't have to think about them. But it's really about time management. So if you've got a small job to do, just to reply to something or to download something and check it's okay, or whatever it is, and it's going to take a short amount of time to do it, don't waste the time making a reminder to do it or emailing it, somebody saying I will do it later, because sometimes you can have 2 or 3 conversations and each one, okay, I'll do it soon, because it's a small task. Those sort of tasks, just try and get it done. Now, of course, there's the proverbial 3-minute job that actually takes half an hour, and that's another story. But I think the 3-minute rule, it's a really important thing, and I always have that mental check when I have a task. Is it a short one? Yep, let's do it immediately. And then you can't forget. The other thing, we talked a lot about training, and I'm going to reframe that in a minute, perhaps for an easier way to remember it. But we have the rule of thirds. So if we're really pushing ourselves, it can be very frustrating just before major championships where it doesn't go our way. We can't hit our target weights. We're not winning the practice races anymore. We can't hit our target times on the rower or the bike or running. But actually, if we set ourselves realistic and really smart goals, I believe in the rule of thirds. And that actually means probably a third of the time you won't be successful. A third of the time you will be okay. And then a third of the time you'll exceed your expectations. And if you're in that situation, the rule of thirds, I think you've set everything at pretty much the right level. So 3-minute rule and rule of thirds. And then a quick recap about our training principles. I'm going to rename it, and it's still not spelt quite correctly, that we're going to be doing fit training. And big bias towards fitness, but it's a rule for almost anything. So we're going to be changing the frequency, the intensity, the type of training, and the time we spend doing that training. Because hopefully from the previous chats we've done on the Restart Sailing show and on Sailing Illustrated, it's really obvious that those things are all related. So the frequency of something we do is very related to the time we spend doing it, and even the time in the Olympic cycle. And it really is a time of a lot of change now. It's very interesting watching social media. It seems a little bit of, for lack of a better word, chaos going on. But anyway, really hoping to join you all for the show. I look forward to the lively debate as always. And if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. See you soon.
John Emmett and his family farm telling us about fit, frequency, intensity, type, and time, as you maybe saw in the show notes. Someday we'll do a little discussion here about how everybody organizes themselves. We've got a bunch of bright, worldly people on here, and I'm sure everybody's got a little bit different approach to it. And that is, I think, cool. But I wanted to chat, we have John on here. I've never met the guy in person. Some of you, and any number of you have, but I think the world of him, and I really appreciate his contributions. So I did a little bit of, investigation with the help, including of Jonathan Frank, who's saying, sounds like my marriage, 3 minutes only, only 1/3 better than usual. I gotta use my cough switch, Julia. Alistair Murray saying, good night, Tom and Julia, checking in a bit late. Nice to see John in action again, indeed. So I looked up, first of all, this Imberhorn, which is the name of their farm. I had to check out, where is it? What's it mean? Imberhorn, as a place name, is known to have existed way back in the 1100s, being Himberhorn, from Old English, meaning, and John also hinted at this, it corner of land where hindberries, raspberries, grow. So that's, if you're wondering what the etymology is of that, it's where the raspberries grow. And specifically, it's south of London, almost due south and a little east of London. And there is also, not only their farm, but there is, and John says he's building an Imberhorn museum. Okay, well, that's cool. But there's a school there. John doesn't know I did this. I've also talked directly to his mother. He doesn't know I talked to his mother, who used to teach at this school for years. I found that out from John. Imberhorn School is a top-rated secondary co-ed school located in West Sussex, Southeast. It has 1,500 plus students, yada, yada. They do very well. John went to this school. His mother taught there for years, or so one hears. Very cool place, and no surprise given what we have with John. Oh, what a friend we have in Emmett, John Emmett. Now, he says, I will also be giving the school some land from their farm for sports, because my mom was a teacher there for many years. He went to school there. None of those kids is John, but stand by here. There is a typical classroom. John said, I used to be told off for being late to school when I lived so close, but actually I was up and around before 5 a.m. and did early morning swimming and a paper round, or what we in the States would call a paper route before school started. So yeah, Gordon Smith, that's where he seems to get his blue shirts from as well. Now I ask you, we're going to kill another bird with this stone. Correct or Crutonic? Are these kids in this next slide, is any of them John Emmett? And if so, which one? The Hindberries, the Stingray say. Is any of these kids at the Imberhorn School, I've been in touch with his mom, remember, any of these kids John, and if so, which one? I think you're stumped. I see no comments. Of course, it takes a few seconds for this to get to you, and then for the comments to get back. No, that's not Prince Harry, second from the right. Wingrove thinks it is John, and it's second from the left. The ginger one, Ryman is saying. I was looking for the one with stubble. Second from the left. Mary Longprise, everybody's guessing second from the left here, DeYoung. Competing teams will be like, okay, rock the boat. That's not about, okay. You're saying if it is, it's the second from the left. Anybody else? John Emmett? John, you can answer it. You can answer it. John, different school uniform than when I went. We had a blue uniform like Smurfs. John, is that you? Julie Aarons thinks it's the second from the left. Give us the verdict, John. He's not commenting. Well, I'll give you the verdict. James Frederick Bland just checking in. Big turnout for your OK Dingy Worlds coming up, James. I'll run a segment on that. Maybe get you on to talk about the OK Dingy. But you got over 100 boats registered for your Worlds coming in what, June? No, none of these is John Emmett. I thought the second one from the left was the most logical as well. So correct or Crutonic, none of those guys is John, but obviously a cool school. Now we know something about John and his background, what makes him interesting, his mother having taught there forever. And he's so, he thinks so highly of the school, he's going to give them a chunk of land down the road. John's already said in his video to like, follow, and share. Clark Chapin always reminds us as well, and we do appreciate that very much. Thank you all. Now, wait, there's more. We got to have a look down now on this fancy farm of the Emmett family. So our Fozzie Focus, which features, of course, cool people, has done just that. Look at this. That is John's mother's farm, or so I'm reliably informed. the family farm, Imberhorn. Now you can see why John can afford to do some of these things and give some land to the school. Amazing. Yeah, we'll get Robert Deves on. I'd rather have you on, James Bland. That is a shot of the farm taken from the air when he was flying into Heathrow the other day. Jonathan Frank sent that, saying, there's John Emmett's family farm, Imberhorn. I could have done a corrector Crutonic, but Gordon Smith already knows. That's Windsor Castle. No, your mother didn't tell me that. Jonathan Frank did. So, John, if that were Imberhorn, we would all move there by now, I think, and be originating the show from there. What's the tax like on that villa, Steve Gruber is asking? Okay, enough of that. But wait, there's more. This came, Jonathan Frank does not know about this picture. This came from our good friend who was landing out at SFO the other day, and he said, that's Jonathan Frank landing on that 777, that United 777 at SFO. And that, of course, is Crutonic as well. That's thanks to our Fozy Peter Taylor, who was here, and we had a cocktail with Peter and Sandy over at the Yacht Club the other night. Nice to see them here in the Bay Area. They're normally in New York, of course. Okay, now here's the big breaking America's Cup news. This has just hit the wires this morning in New Zealand. I got a tip-off from one of our Fozy down there, and it's no surprise. Julie Ahrens, I won't dedicate this segment to you because you probably also will not be surprised. But here is the deal. You know this building? Anybody know that building? Kiwis will. If any of the Kiwis are on. That is the Kawau Boating Club. It's really a nice club out on Kawau Island, and it belongs, it's a station of, an outstation of the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Now, the RNZ is having to close it down. Why? To save money. Why? Well, the business desk reporting this morning, Steve Gruber says he's been there. Headline, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron appoints a razor gang. That's an expression I hadn't heard. A razor gang as 1.6 million loss looms. The Auckland Sailing Club that let the America's Cup go to Barcelona is starting a cost-cutting drive, according to Business Desk and others. I've talked to two other Fozy in New Zealand this morning, and they confirm this is true. There's an email that has gone out from the club to the members. The Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, according to Business Desk, is facing a trading loss of up to 1.6 million Kiwi dollars in the current financial year and is immediately reviewing its operations in a hunt for savings. Auckland's Blue Ribbon Sailing Club is blaming poor trading conditions, business conditions, caused by COVID-19 and the impact of stormy weather in early 2023 for the projected loss between 1.4 and 1.6 mil. Yeah, right. An email in recent days from the Commodore, Andrew Aitken, announced the appointment of a reset committee led by RNZYS member and KPMG, the big accounting firm, senior partner John Kensington, to, quote, undertake an immediate review of how we operate to ensure that going forward we have a sustainable business model, unquote. Quote, given the likely size of this year's trading loss, this is also from that email, and ongoing financial pressure, we believe we will need to reset the way we operate, unquote, the message to members said. The Reset Committee has been briefed to, quote, mitigate the impact of these losses and to ensure that going forward the club can operate both sustainably and profitably for the benefit of members and our sailing community. However, sources with knowledge of the situation suggest the club is also suffering from membership losses caused by its decision last year to allow the next America's Cup regatta to be sailed in Barcelona rather than in Auckland. Emirates Team New Zealand won the regatta in Auckland 2021, as you all know, but pushed for the 2024 event to be sailed in a Northern Hemisphere location for financial reasons. There's a little more here. One RNZ member spoke of a, quote, a fairly high level of discontent about the fact that the yacht club, which holds the trust deed for the world's oldest sporting trophy, acceded to that plan advanced by Team New Zealand's chief executive, Grant Dalton. Among the high-profile RNZ members to have resigned over the Barcelona decision are the original backer of NZ bids for the Cup, Sir Michael Fay, Auckland Queen's Council, I think it should be QC, not KC, Queen's Council. Maybe he's a King's Council now. Is that right? Maybe he's a King's Council now that they have a king, not a queen. Oh, I learned something. You learn something new every day. Auckland KC Jim Farmer, Alan Sefton, and Andrew Johns, who was the legal advisor for the 3 NZ bids led by Fay. Now, to be fair, I think they've also had some members who joined in the run-up to the last Cup and were hoping that the Cup would be there again. And now that it's not there, they're saying, well, what's the point? I don't need a private place to drink. There's lots of places in Auckland to go have a beer and see my mates and so on. So that's pretty interesting news. There is also, as Stingray will know, and I haven't published any of this yet, but there's news coming out of Barcelona that the finances there are still not sorted, that the organizing committee has had to go borrow money. And I haven't made a big deal of this because that's not all that unusual, because you have expenses that are up front when you're organizing one of these things, and you hope the money is going to come in the back end as promised, and you're going to raise sponsorship, and you're going to get the government money promised and so on. But so far, they are short in Barcelona as well, or so one hears. Now, the other thing we got a note here about Auckland, apparently, and about the RNZ, apparently they have lost 25% of their membership. I'm advised reliably by a couple of FOSI this morning. 25% of their membership. This club's, they wouldn't be appointing a blue riband, as you might say in the UK and in the Commonwealth. You would not be appointing a committee like that. You'd have your finance committee go off and come back with recommendations to the board, to the committee, as they call it. But it's not correct. They got problems down there. Comments? Oh, one other thing that one hears. Remember, as part and parcel of this deal, Emirates Team New Zealand, Mr. Dalton has promised to pay the club 3 million Kiwi into their treasury for letting him take the Cup to Barcelona. Has that money come in? Are they underwater despite that money having come in? Is that money ever going to come in? And that's one of the things that concerns them. I don't know. We'll get the answer, though, sooner or later. We'll go to the comments. Who is, regarding your opening comment, Governor DeSantis now involved getting him to play in Miami. Good. Who is that? Oh, that's from Daniel Gurn. Thank you, Daniel Gurn. DeSantis asked if Djokovic could come by boat. we got a boating angle for that story yet. Thank you, Daniel Gurn. If he comes by boat, does that mean the feds can't keep him out? That's interesting. Maybe you come from Cuba. You go to Cuba and come across the 90 miles from Cuba. Yeah, James Bland, I'm sorry to say, I think you're right. Team Emirates New Zealand left them, meaning the RNZ, holding the bag. And James is right. J. Frederick Bland, any number of their members could write a check if they wanted to. Yes, but probably those who wanted to are not amused with the decision to take it out of New Zealand in the first place. So we'll see. Yeah, Steve Gruber is absolutely right. Perfect cruising stop for the first night. It's about an hour's fast motorboat ride up to the Kawau station, or a 3 or 4 hour sail if you're in a boat. And it's, if you're heading north, if you're going up the North Island, it's really a nice Kawau, yippee, oh, yippee. How long? Okay. Most likely managed by U.S. Sailing. No, I don't think U.S. Sailing's managing the RNZ. Joe Holtzman, a good comment. Hello, Graham Sweeney. Yeah, we were talking about you earlier. Julie Aarons, they sustained big losses due to the storms. Yes, I think that's fair. They were severely affected by COVID. Yes, I think that's fair. There were extensive limitations on sailing, and that cost the club. Yes, I'm sure that's all fair. But you needed to anticipate that and cut back then, as other clubs did, including St. Francis and Balboa and probably every other club of which all of you on here is affiliated. And I don't think they're going to sell that, but apparently I'm advised, let's see if Steve Gruber knows, I'm advised that Kawau station is maybe their most valuable piece of property, even more so than the clubhouse in town. Seems a little hard to believe, but who knows? Okay, I'm turning to other America's Cup news now. That I also teased this in the show last night with the promo. Do you know which team has spent, of the AC 37 teams, has spent the most time on the water? Well, it's not Ineos. They're at 33. It's not Luna Rossa. They're at 37 days on the water. Not New York Yacht Club's American Magic, 46. Not ETNZ on 47. Alinghi has the most number of days on the water. They started early, Stingray is saying. Alinghi. And you wonder why I keep touting Alinghi as one of the top teams, if not the top challenger? We'll see. They are going to be good, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends in FOSI. They're going to be good. Mark my words right here. Today on Tuesday, March 7th, show 598. That's, I think, pretty interesting news. And James Frederick Bland is, James, you're right. Tiller time will win. Well, that and money and organization and smarts. It's not the team with the most money, but the team that is the smartest, and you get smart by the number of days on the water. This is how Dennis Conner was so good. When he professionalized the Cup in the early 80s, it was because he got 2 boats and 2 teams, and he went out on the water and did sail testing and boat testing and configuration testing, boring stuff, day after day after day, going out there. I can go over here to camera too, can't I? And sailing side by side, day after day after day, tack, day after day after day, tack, and it was then come back downhill. And that's how Dennis got so good and his teams got so good. John Sangmeister, speaking of whom, was with Dennis. And I'm telling you, the Kiwis are right up there, number 2. They're smart. They know what the deal is. They're on the water, and they will be good. So that's it. Most days on the water, surprisingly, I think, for a lot of people, probably not Stingray, because he follows this pretty carefully. You can only manage what you can measure. There is sounds like Jack Welch at General Electric, the famously good CEO of General Electric. Daniel Grunelinghi is going to be tactically outsailed by Burling, Outeridge, Tuke, and Ashby. Yeah, maybe. Wouldn't surprise me. The other half, John Emmett, is design the race and race the fastest boat. Yeah, okay, but it's the smartest team, and you get smart by being out there training. And remember, it's the feedback from the sailing team to the design team and vice versa that wins this. It's the interface between the design team and the sailing team, and when that works, the team gets good. When it doesn't, I have seen on these, I've been involved in this since 1980. I have seen the sailing teams come in and say, well, we want to do this, we want to do that. We think the boat feels, it's a simplified, has a little too much lee helm. We want it to have a little more weather helm, for example. And the design team will go back to their skunk works and say, well, they don't know what they're talking about. Let's tell them that we moved the rig back to give it a little more weather helm, or we're going to rake the mast back. Again, I'm just putting this in simple terms. Tell them that that's what we did, so they'll think that the boat has a little more helm, and let's see what they say. And then they don't tell the team what they really did, which was either nothing or maybe something else. And that immediately breaks, it screws the whole thing. I've seen that over and over again. It's unbelievable how the ego of the design team and the ego of the sailing team. And that's why Bill Koch said in the 90s, leading up to the 92 Cup, the ego is the boat, not the sailing team, not the design team. The ego is the boat. I thought that was interesting that Alinghi leads on the water. Luna Rossa's had another setback in the arbitration. I'm not going to go into that. It's fairly arcane. Just like the Brits, remember, had a setback too. So that's why part of the reason the two of them have so relatively few sailing days. Here's a nice video. We haven't paid much attention to Luna Rossa. It's another one of these videos where you don't see them tack or jibe, maybe once. And here's what they're doing in Cagliari down in southern Sardinia as they continue to train with Jimmy Spithill now back from Sail GP. Have a look. Yeah, I'm not sure there's any audio with this either, by the way. So we'll let this roll and do a voiceover. There's a little audio coming up now. I don't quite know what that maneuver was. Any news from the French team? Mario Stokes? Not that I've heard, sir. For me, it is far too early to make an educated guess. Well, my guess is it's a supposition, John, of course. Yes, I agree, Julie Aarons. They're going to do a lot of catch-up time with ETNZ. The defender is the defender and has a huge advantage, and that's what makes the America's Cup so fascinating and so difficult. What other comments? Boat speed always makes you look smart, Fritz Mueller says. Isn't that the truth? I've never sailed a tactically bad regatta when I had great boat speed. I like how Ineos has kept cleverly dry for almost a month. They could be in the sleeper team in the game. Oh, come on, Fritz Mueller. You don't really think the French are going to have a snowball's chance. They will be at the bottom of the pile. I guarantee them to you. And I'm glad they're in. It gets French eyeballs and television. And hopefully they're kicking the tires and will be back in for the next Cup. Daniel Grun is would like to support Ineos Britannia. He's saying it's been an utter disaster thus far by doing the same things over and over and over again. It is not working. They need to get going if they want to have a shot. Julie Aarons, Daniel Grun is correct. It is also all the way the culture of ETNZ. They are such a close-knit group, the closeness and ties between the team and designers. Spot on, Julie Aarons. Totally agree. Talent doesn't win, David James says. Process wins. Well, you got to have both, David, as you know. You got to have good people and a good process, and if either is flawed, you are screwed with a capital F, right? You got to have both. And a culture. I mean, I think the team culture is important. The LR boat looks seriously fast, Stingray saying. Yeah, how can you tell, Stingray? So pretty on the water, not that that indicates anything. You can gauge foil cavitation from all these. It's a good point, Fritz. Luca Craig down in Auckland. I finished Drive to Survive, and the engineers struggled to rectify the Mercedes cars. Everyone else did. It shows if you go down the wrong track or risk gamble a design decision, it's hard to come back from. Same in the Ace. Correct. Absolutely correct. Replying to David James, essentially what Bland said. Yep. James Frederick. When these boats hit the water and toe-to-toe, there will be only two boats that matter. My guess is it will be Tech versus Tiller time. Graham Sweeney. Okay. Daniel Gurn regarding Barcelona and money. You don't need to be a Flintstone to know it would be tough to raise money post-COVID-19, no matter where it would be held. I think that's true as well. Fritz Mueller about Taberley and Hydropter. Yeah, okay, but still, they're starting from a deep hole. I think the Baton Rouge is saying he thinks the Italian videos look slow. Well, till we see boats tacking and jiving, I'm not impressed too much by any of them. And Airbus, yeah, Airbus, but you know what it's like to try to get collaboration between all those groups. It's really, especially on this thing's in 2 years' time. Hardly any time left. Okay, anything else on all that? Let's go to the Ocean Race. As you all know, they're on 4 of the 5 boats are on leg 3, headed from Cape Town, from Ted Ryman's front yard, around the Horn, around Australia, New Zealand, and around the Horn, the Corn, and up to Itajaí in Brazil. It's the longest leg. That's the destination. But one of the boats is back in Cape Town, where leg 3 started, back there in beautiful. I love Cape Town. I'd love to get down there again and visit Ted Ryman, and I'm sure he'll take me out to the wine country, out to the east of Cape Town. It's just a beautiful part of the world. Some problems, to be sure, but a beautiful part of the world. Now, here's the news, of course, is that this Guyot, how do you pronounce it, had to turn around. The boat was becoming delaminated. They turned around. They safely, thank God, they safely got back to Cape Town. And they announced today that they will make repairs in Cape Town and rejoin the race in Brazil. Now, the question is, how are they going to get to Brazil? Are they going to ship or are they going to sail? And I have that answer in a moment. But let's first look at their video.
Yeah, I'm not happy to be here and not in Itajaí, for sure. With the damage we have on the boat, on board, and I'm just happy to come back with the boat in one piece.
Yeah, no, to be honest, it's pretty tough. I mean, it wasn't the plan, and obviously we had a few days now to get here, but I think arriving here sort of makes it a bit more real.
I think you cannot underestimate such a situation. Of course, we're a little bit bluesy with giving up this beautiful big lake in the Southern Ocean, but sport sometimes is brutal, and it is what it is.
So it's good to see land, but it's just not the land that we wanted to see.
Fast and safe. Perfect.
Yeah, from underneath I can see some huge crack on the outside skin, though definitely that was a good plan to come back here, otherwise it would be a mess.
Yeah, we can see it outside, so for sure inside it's bad.
But now it's all done, we just need to ratchet down the boat properly, because this afternoon we got a storm coming with 40-50 knots, so we need to make sure everything is tight before the storm.
And we can see some cracks right here. It's a A-scan ultrasound, so we're basically sending out pulses, and that reflects back from the outer skin of the hull. So it goes through the inner skin, you transmit signals through the Nomex and through the outer skin, and you reflect back, and I'm basically looking for that return signal. And if we have a D-bond, the signal can't travel through the air. And for now, I'm just marking it out the extent of the D-bond, basically.
It does seem that there's some delamination. It seems very local. A lot of the panels are still good. I think the best way is going to be to start opening up from outside and just to confirm the ultrasound, and then from there slowly enlarging the opening and doing a replacement core and replacement outer skin.
Oh yes, we have some answers. We know where it's debonded from the inside, so yeah, now we just gotta start, grind it down, and we will get a better view of what we gotta repair. Tonight we wait for a big storm. You can see it's coming through, so this is why we were rushing a little bit to make sure the boat was in proper condition on the cradle. Tomorrow we gotta build up a plan with the designers and the team to make sure we can do a proper repair. But yeah, we are ready. Nice office, nice view, Table Mountain. There is a worst place to work.
if we want a team happy, we need to eat well. So we're planning what we will do for the next 10 days, but next 10 days we'll unpack the rest of the race too, and we have a new office now, perfect one, like Bobo Campers.
We have a big damage. We have a delaminated area in the floor. With the living area, there's a size of 2.5 square meters where the sandwich laminate is broken. And this is quite a serious damage. You can definitely not go with such a damage into the Southern Ocean.
We had a couple of sad days. Delivering the boat back was hard, for sure. I think when we arrived, it was very strange, you know, to know how to feel. But now, yeah, we're off. We're ready to go again.
Yeah, we are retiring from the race today, officially, from this leg.
The result is what we expect since the beginning. So, the reply, is the answer is no. We will join directly Itajaí by the fastest way. And the fastest way is to cross the Atlantic and to join the fleet in Itajaí.
Yeah, but overall, of course, we are excited. I had a good feeling with the performance in the leg, very motivated to come back, and still we can do some very successful legs, and that's what I want to show.
This leg is not all the race, and we need to be focused on the rest of the race. And the present moment is to repair the boat, to pass some time with the team, and we need to keep the team strong, to keep the team all together, to be strong for the next legs. That was the past, and we need to go in the future. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back.
We'll be back. I love this. Ted Ryman says he's going to take me out there to the wine country and get me really drunk. Well, I don't know about that, Ted, but okay, so here's what they tweeted just before we went to air the ocean race. Guyot Environment, Team Europe will not resume leg 3. As you heard in that video, they have retired. They're not going to, well, no surprise. After the repair in Cape Town, they will transfer the yacht to Itajaí to rejoin the race on time and well prepared for leg 4. And I had to start checking around. What does that mean, transfer? And Gordon Smith was spot on. He was right. There was, buried somewhere, there was a statement, and maybe something got lost in the translation from French to English. But they say they're going to sail Stingray, and I was texting with Stingray earlier this morning about this. They're going to sail, and you saw maybe on that video the course or the path from Cape Town up and around down to back to Itajaí. So that, you know, they go up and around and miss the headwinds that if they tried to sail straight there. So I think the problem with shipping it on a ship is it'll take a long time. In fact, one of our Fozy, as you all know, is an expert in that matter. And I'm assured that it would take to schedule a boat and then to get it there, and it would start, God knows how many other stops the ship would have before it got over to Itajaí, if you could even find a ship that goes there anytime soon. So could you fly it, as I think Steve Groover or somebody said? Yeah, I guess you could, but man, that would be hugely expensive. So they're going to sail it. Now, I hope they make it, but as a couple of you said, James Bland said, I wouldn't trust a boat if it starts delaminating anywhere. Time for a bonfire. Ka-ching, ka-ching, Fritz Mueller is saying. I wouldn't step foot in that boat, Stingray is saying. Julie Aarons, very scary stuff. A break in the lamination of the hull necessitates retirement from the competition, but they're enthusiastic, and that is wonderful. Yes, I just hope they make it, and if they do, David James, I hope they have a life raft. And Ryman saying, Ted saying, never underestimate the French, Alan Long agreeing. So that's the word, that they're going to sail, and if they do, I hope they don't get into trouble. I mean, they are going to apparently try. We'll see. We shall see. We'll see if the other remaining 4 boats make it across the Southern Ocean to Itajaí, because even that might be a little dicey. Okay, here's the latest race report. Being really far from anywhere will be in the minds of the sailors on board the Four Mochas racing in leg 3. Team Wholesome PRB continue to hold a comfortable lead of around 500 nautical miles, a little less than that last I looked, over at least the second place boat. Biotherm have been the standout performer in the chasing group of the other 3, the remaining 3 back there. Spirits are high as the crew push the boat to its limit. We're going to show you some more Biotherm video in a moment, drone video. Sam Davies.
Slam it away from front. So you have to know when you can move and when you have to stay still and hang on, and sometimes it takes a long time.
We got to get John to fix their audio, John Emmett. 11th Hour Racing are struggling with sail repairs. They have been slow overnight, and there is some risk of being overtaken by light winds from behind. Now they're in 4th place. More of the same for the next 24 hours as Team Wholesome PRB rides the front of a weather system and the fleet try to stay in contact. Look at the winds there. Okay, nice video. Smart decision to sail the boat to Brazil. It's the best way to check. Yeah, good point, Dan Grun. I was thinking the same thing. At least if they sailing up the coast of Africa, because that's the way they're going to go, of course. And if they get into trouble, they can ditch into someplace in Africa. Thanks for the vid and update, Miss Alex and Hugo. Yeah, Joe Cool, totally agree. I'm not sure my camera audio equipment would survive the Southern Ocean, John is saying. He's saying he's hoping, too, all those boats make it, because Lily is covering this for, I think, CNTV. Who is it, John? Chinese national TV? Come on, they found the damage and fixed it. Steve Adkins is saying it's not broken, probably strongest part of the boat now. Well, I hope you're right, Commodore Adkins. I hope you are right. Okay, so there is the latest from the ocean race. Now, this video... Yeah, I'm not going to play it all, but you talk about drone videos and cool videos. Look at them. They've flown the drone off Biotherm. And you think, first of all, we just saw this in the last Volvo Ocean race around the world. We didn't see it before. We've only seen this for the last 4 or 5 years even. And to think that they get the drone up there in even this, pretty good wind, can fly it alongside the boat, get these fabulous shots, fabulous video, fly it around the front of the boat, round behind the boat. Have it come back aboard, retrieve it. Look at that drone flew right in front of the boat. Fabulous stuff. And then retrieve it, then send the video up by satellite back to Alicante for them to edit it and put it out as a vid. It's cool stuff. I still think it's cool. I'm still flabbergasted. Hell of a drone, James Bland agreeing. Gordon Smith, too. Daniel Grun saying it still looks more like, that is Biotherm, looks more like a submarine than a boat. Okay, you've seen it. I agree. It's a nice video, which is why I thought we ought to play it. That other video, that Guillot environment video, was a longer video than I normally play, 6.5 minutes. But they may not get a lot more publicity, so I thought it was fair to do that. So there's the latest leaderboard from about 3 hours. We're an hour into this show, so 3 hours ago, about 2 hours before we went live. Wholesome leading, of course, 421 miles back as Biotherm. Malizia, 520 plus miles and 11-hour racing 600 odd miles back. And you can see who's going the fastest. The leader, at least when that little chart was put out by the race, the ocean race, before we went to air. And then there were 4. I think that's the theme of 2 days, because like, obviously the other boat has suspended. They retired. They retired from that lake. Suspended means they're still planning to get back in, but as you know, they've now retired and they're not planning to sail again. Okay. Sail GP. What's going on with Sail GP? Well, I thought we should, not much because they're racing in a couple weeks' time, but I thought we should run this video just out about the Swiss team. We haven't given them much coverage, and I think this is kind of a cool video. What do you think? What they learned in Sydney.
Pretty hectic day of racing in Sydney Harbour, some really nice conditions. Yeah, pretty windy, something we didn't have for quite some time because the last events have been quite light to medium wind, so quite new again for us and a lot of learnings. Yeah, we made a lot of progress throughout the week. We attacked today really well with 2 good starts in the first 2 races, but couldn't really hold our position. We had a couple of big crashes at the leeward gate, but also in some jives, and that cost us a lot of points. And in the last race, we got stuck in a lull at the start, which meant we were playing catch up.
The wind was very, very strong at times and very unstable, so certainly made for some very tricky manoeuvres. And can't say that we're very happy with the day. We really didn't execute, unfortunately, around the racetrack. Left a lot of points out there, and so we really have to make sure we look at what the mistakes were and make sure that we come out firing.
A bit disappointing in terms of results. We could have done better. Lots of learning, and yeah, we'll bring that into the next event. I think the challenge in Sail GP, especially for a new team like us, is we don't get extra training time to catch up on the more experienced team. So we try to bring that experience from outside, and that's why we brought people like Glenn or Nathan and Will to try and fast track this learning and make every day as productive as possible.
Nice to be back on Sydney Harbour and really cool to be working with the team this week together. Great atmosphere, a lot of really great sailors, and yeah, pretty intense days out there for the race day. Action-packed day. Really, really cool to see all the boats so close, and the racing's the highest level there is out there at the moment. So great to be part of it here for this event. I know that it seems like there's a big gaps in the point sometimes between first and second and all the rest in the pack, but the margins are so small in this fleet, and just great to be here with the challenge ahead of us. For the Swiss team coming away from this event, a couple of manoeuvres and performance things that we can kind of focus on. So I think everyone's really hungry already to get back into racing, and those 4 weeks can't come soon enough. And I'm really looking forward to the next one.
It sounds like they're going to have maybe all the boats going when they get to Christchurch. They have announced that the Team New Zealand boat, remember the one that was wrecked by the lightning strike, the electronics and some of the structure in Singapore, that boat's apparently now ready, or so they've announced. One comment here that I thought was pretty funny. Lots of comments. Ted Ryman, apropos, we reported at the top of the show, they threw their Toblerone overboard in protest. Announcement that came out today. Thank you, Daniel Gruen, for cluing me in on this. Sail GP announced today that in their next season, that in season 4, they're going back to Saint-Tropez as Sail GP's 3rd season builds to its grand finale in San Francisco on May 6-7. Season 4 is already looming large on the horizon after the season opening Rolex United States Sail Grand Prix at Chicago at the Navy Pier on June 16-17. So that's after San Francisco. They go to Chicago for the start of season 4. The town of Saint-Tropez will host the first event of the European leg of season 4. The French Sail Grand Prix with the support of the Société Nautique de Saint-Tropez. This will form part of an impressive global calendar of events encompassing multiple continents. And the next event, of course, is in a little less than 2 weeks' time. It's the 18th, 19th in Christchurch. 2-day spectacle of exhilarating races, intense rivalries, and action-packed entertainment. Christchurch this year and Auckland next year, the ITM. I don't know what ITM is. Any of you know? The ITM, New Zealand Sail Grand Prix. So the only really professional circuit, the America's Cup is pro. a couple other minor pro circuits. But Bravo Zulu to them. They seem to come good after Singapore and the lightning strike there, and after Sydney, the big storm that wiped out racing on Sunday. So Bravo Zulu to them. Please ask Julie to buy us the new fan-owned Sail GP team up for sale. Imagine the fun. Hey, Julia, if you're listening upstairs in the Commodore's quarters, buy the team. Julia's well off, but I don't think she's that well off. I don't know. Maybe she is. Maybe she can buy the team. We'll see. We're winding down after an hour and 15 minutes here. Show number 598. We are to the proverbial last leg. And this is sad news to report, but also uplifting. This guy was just a fabulous guy. I didn't know him well, but in many ways, the godfather of the modern, at least, snipe class. And I like the snipe logo up there in the corner. Do you see that? Serious sailing, serious fun. The internet, Skyra is the Snipe Class International Yacht Racing Association. Skyra, it's called. I sailed a snipe as a kid. Not a lot, but a little bit. We had snipes on our lake and lightnings, and it's a nice boat because you've got the, the boom is at a decent height. You're not getting smacked in the head, and there's no spinnaker, main and jib. Nice, comfortable boat to sit in. The dagger board, which is we don't want to go into that because we're talking about this guy who has just passed away on Friday, and that is Gonzalo Diaz, Augie Diaz's dad. Gonzalo, he's much better known as Old Man or the Old Man. He grew up in Cuba, got out of Cuba, got over to Miami, and never looked back. The guy has been a sailor most of his life. He was a gentleman, a smart guy, started a company that was very successful, hired a lot of Cuban Americans and then some. As I said, I had the pleasure of meeting him any number of times when I gave talks at Lauderdale Yacht Club or someplace similar. Gonzalo Diaz Sr., the Old Man, as he was lovingly known to all of us, left us Friday morning at his home in Miami, surrounded by his loved ones. It's hard to say in a few words what Gonzalo was to the Miami snipe fleet, but also to the snipe class worldwide, which in a lot of snipes in South America, as our Fozy down there will know, a lot of snipes in Spain, as Monica Diaz will know, and even snipes, fair few in Scandinavia. Interesting to report. And this guy was the godfather of the class. He was born in Havana, in Cuba in 1930. Among his many regattas and championships, he sailed for Cuba at the 1959 World Championships with his brother Saul, finishing second. In 75, he finished second again at the Worlds, crewing for his son Augie. In 1980, he was elected Skyra Commodore. In addition to this, the Old Man was the creator of classic regattas such as the Commodore Rasco and the Don Q, that good rum, premium rum, and inspired generations of sailors. He was inducted into the Snipe Hall of Fame in 2019. Any of you who've ever sailed against Augie Diaz know that he is also a fabulous sailor, but also a gentleman like his dad. Here's a photo someone sent me from 1969, Augie sailing. Yeah, Augie's about my age, so I think he would have, 69, he would have been 10, 16 years old, thereabouts. Augie set sail with his father, the man who taught him everything, and the champion he now rules, or the champion he now is. Terrific, terrific family. And Augie Diaz sailing with his dad, the Old Man, is in that photo. This is Gonzalo and his beloved wife, Carmen, of many, many years. They got lots, they got kids, they got grandkids, a big family, and a fabulous gentleman. It's a big loss for our sport. And that is Gonzalo Diaz Sr., 1930 to 2023. May he rest in peace. Okay, that gets us to the D block here and to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. It's hard to follow up. I mean, it almost brings a tear to my eye. I really had fun with the gentleman. Didn't know him super well, but anytime we got to, oh, you're the America's Cup guy. Oh, yeah, Augie and you sailed against each other. Yeah. Just fabulous. Fabulous. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And we're not talking about U.S. sailing in this segment. But thank you again for all of you who sent some of these funnies. And this is kind of sailing related, isn't it? The guy in a little Gilligan's Island type hat on a deserted island. Thanks, Ed Worley, down in SoCal, for sending that in. You have no new messages. How do people think this stuff up? This is my favorite, Jack Daniels fishing story. I went fishing this morning, but after a short time, I ran out of worms. Then I saw a cottonmouth snake with a frog in its mouth. Frogs are good bass bait. Knowing the snake couldn't bite me with a frog in its mouth, I grabbed it behind the head, took the frog, and put it in my bait bucket. Now the dilemma was how to release the snake without getting bit. So I grabbed my bottle of Jack Daniels and poured a little whiskey in its mouth. Its eyes rolled back and it went limp. I released the snake into the lake without incident and carried on fishing using the frog. Not long after, I felt a nudge on my foot. It was that damn snake with 2 more frogs. I dedicate that to Chris Bretschker, who loves Jack Daniels and Coke. Why would you ruin some good Jack with Coca-Cola? Neat on the rocks. I haven't had bourbon or Jack Daniels in a long time. Clayton Emily, he'll like that one too. We can dedicate that. The Drinking Show with a Sailing Habit. Thank you. Greg Phillips from Australia sent that. I wonder if he's a big Jack Daniels drinker. Now this one, Julie, if your finger is working up there, boats are like strippers. They work until you quit throwing $100 bills at them. Denise Peterson sent that this morning. Jack Daniels and Snakes Illustrated. Remind me sometime I'll tell the joke about the guy who was golfing and had to take a pee and was taking a pee, and then the snake came out of the grass and bit him on the end of the as Prince Harry would say, the Todger. The joke goes on from there. It's a good one. Thank you, Denise Peters. I like that. Okay, that's it. That's our finish line photo. Dave Reed's photo for Sailing World of Newport Yacht Club in the northeast corner of Newport Harbor in my favorite town, sailing town in the world, Newport, Rhode Island, the spiritual center, cultural heart of sailing, at least in this country. Please like, follow. If Julie were here, she's not, but I suspect she'll be down here Friday. If not Friday, hopefully for sure for our 600th show next Tuesday. She would say like, follow, and share. And we always remind you that comments, if you're watching this in replay, as many of you do, comments are welcome, even in replay. Okay, we appreciate the support that you give us. It really does help keep us on the air. Become a patron via patreon.com/join/sailing illustrated. Gordon Smith saying, thanks to everyone and hugs to Julie. See you all Friday. I wonder where next. John Emmett is, where will you be, John Emmett, on Friday? Damn them trouser snakes, Gramps. Yes, do support us. Give us a few bucks a month, please, to help us out. Thanks to everybody who gave us video, audio, and images for today's show. It's a long list of people, as you can see. We appreciate the Fozy sending us stories, tipping us off, and those who let us have their media, for lack of a better word. Friday, delighted to say that we have coming up, as promised, the esteemed Katie Pettibone and her partner David Blanchfield Ratty will be with us, and I have photos that will curl every hair on your body that's not already curled. We're not going to dwell on it, but Ratty's going to tell us what happened, how it happened during Sydney Hobart, that his leg got gashed by a baby stay, I don't know what it was. And we're going to talk also about the late, great Sid Fisher, with whom Ratty sailed a lot. I didn't sail with him, but I knew him well from the America's Cup and so on. And maybe we'll get Katie to give us some of her views on the Olympics. She's on the Olympic Advisory Committee. She's also a hell of a good sailor, as is Ratty, and we're looking forward to having them on Friday. This coming Sunday, sadly, we are going on daylight savings time, so we begin this season of us going on. You in Europe not going on for a couple more, 3 more weeks, whenever it is. But we go on this Sunday. So next Tuesday show, a week from today, the 14th, we will be going live, as always, at 1300 Pacific. We're not going to move around. We're going to stay at 1300 Pacific. It's really hard for me to get the show prepared if I were to go at at 1200 if I were to make it earlier to keep it the same time for the rest of you. 1300 Pacific. Make your adjustments as you go on and off, whether you're going on in Europe or off down under and down in South America in due course. Okay, thank you all. Any other comments here? Another great show, and the 600. Yep, Joe Cool, we're getting there. Thank you very much. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Sail fast, sail safe, have fun. In the meantime, see you on Friday. Ciao for now.